So officially welcome to the third and final session in our series, Guide to the Holidays. We are very happy to have Morgan Sanderson with us this morning, and she's going to be presenting on staying healthy through the holidays. She is a friend of our foundation's and has done many of our Survive and Thrive programming with us, virtual camps so far, and I think this might be your first webinar with us.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but she is one of our registered licensed dietitians, and she has been with the Salmon's Cancer Center since fall of 2020. And so we are grateful for what she does for our patients and the hope she provides that. And we are excited to have her with us today, sharing with you guys. So I'm going to let her get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm so excited to be here with you guys this morning. I'm going to go ahead and share our little game up here. But like Kelly said, we will be playing a Jeopardy game today. But the way it's going to work is we're just going to all play independently. So there's no teams. And you are playing for a prize. So we're playing to win here. I will select someone randomly to kind of kick us off with our first category, but then after that we're going to use our raise hand feature on Zoom if you guys want to, or if you know the answer to the next question. So Rick, you're at the top of my screen, your hand is still raised, so I'm going to pick on you and have you be our first guest to pick a category and a number. And I did want to touch on some of these are difficult on purpose, so that way we can have kind of a discussion and education woven in between. So just give it your best guess, best effort, but no pressure. I made my husband play last night and he said, I'm married to a dietitian and some of these are still hard. So it's all just for fun. And so that way we can kind of discuss and throw ideas around and have a little bit of education woven in too. But Rick, you're the chosen one, so you get to pick our first category.
How about power of portions?
And which number would you like?
I'll go 100.
All right. So at least blank % of your plate should contain non-starchy vegetables. So this would be any vegetable besides peas, potatoes, and corn. And if you guys know the answer, you can raise your hand. Judith?
A third.
The correct answer is 50%. So half of our plate should contain any vegetable that you can think of besides, again, peas, potatoes, and corn. Those three are actually starchy vegetables, so they can still fit on our plate. They're just in a different category. So when we're thinking non-starchy, that could be a side salad, asparagus, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, peppers and onions, really any veggie that you can think of. But we do want to get a good color variety and kind of change up which veggies we're choosing for each meal. So good guess. That was very close. All right, Judith, you get to pick our next category.
Success for 200.
Okay. If you participate in this for about 150 minutes per week, it aids in digestion, regulates blood sugar levels, increases your energy, and improves your overall mood. Rick, I think I might have seen your hand raise.
Yes, exercise.
That's right, physical activity. So our general recommendation is about 150 minutes per week. We do want to break those up into smaller intervals, so we don't want to bank all those minutes and then do a really hard, tough workout at the end that's over about 2 hours long. But we do also want to get a mix of both strength training and kind of our lower impact exercise, as long as you've been cleared by your doctor to do so. So if you're still, in treatment or kind of recovering from a surgery or anything like that, always get clearance. But we do recommend that you kind of change up the type of physical activity and how often you're doing it as well. But I do like to touch on that during the holidays because it is easy to let that fall by the wayside. But during a lunch break or in between meals, even just walking around the house, taking a couple laps or doing some stretching or yoga poses can really add up during the week too. So I always like to encourage that. Good job. So that's 200 points for Rick. And you get to pick our next category.
Oh, great. Holiday stats for 2.
200?
Yes.
Blank cases are reported annually from foodborne illness from the Christmas holiday. All right, Rick.
60%.
60%. So the answer is 400,000.
Oh.
And that's, sorry, that was a little unclear. But this is from Americans annually. So these are hospitalized or non-serious foodborne illnesses. So to prevent this, and my best guess would be that this is from either reheating leftovers or foods being left out. So if you're kind of doing a family style dinner for a holiday or a Christmas party, we don't want to consume anything that's been sitting out for more than 2 hours. Okay, so that would be our hot foods or things that need to be rewarmed or anything that needs to be refrigerated. So for example, if we have our turkey and stuffing and things like that left out, we don't want to graze past that 2-hour period unless it's been refrigerated and reheated. The AICR, the American Institute for Cancer Research, has a lot of good guidelines for prevention of foodborne illness. And this is very important post-treatment, especially if you've had a low white count or recent infection, to kind of stay mindful of that too. So all of those reheating temperatures, if you guys have a meat thermometer, can be found on that AICR website. All right, Rick.
Swaps and recipes for 100.
Adding this non-starchy vegetable to your mashed potato recipe will help lower the caloric content of the food and also add folate, vitamin C, and fiber. And a hint is that it won't change the color of your mashed potatoes. Judith.
Cauliflower.
That's right. Cauliflower. So this has become a very popular vegetable to utilize. Cauliflower rice, cauliflower mashed potatoes, even like cauliflower tortillas. Personally, it doesn't do the same job for me if I'm eating just 100% cauliflower. So an easy hack you can do is utilizing half the potato recipe and then using cauliflower as a filler. So that way you're sneaking in that non-starchy vegetable, but not really changing the texture or the taste of the food. Good job. All right, Judith, you get to pick our next category.
Power of portions for 300.
300. Name one way to stay on top of your portion sizes. Rick.
Measure by the palm of your hand.
That's a great one. I am going to count that. These are just a few hacks that I like to educate patients on, especially if we're just kind of using our visual tools here. Pre-portioning out holiday treats is a big one. If you guys have anything that's passed down from tradition, like cookies or fudge or things like that, I still want you to enjoy them. I do find it easier if you kind of find the serving size and portion them out either in Tupperwares or Ziploc baggies and have them as grab and go instead of just leaving the tub or the big casserole dish out and eating it that way. So it's a little more mindful that way. Using a smaller plate. So if you're using paper plates or things like that at a holiday party, not buying the big buffet size and kind of going for the smaller salad plate, filling that up. And then if you're still hungry, going back for seconds. A big one, and this is a hint for future category, do not undereat in anticipation of a holiday meal. So especially on Thanksgiving and Christmas, Hanukkah, those big eating traditional holidays, we don't want to go into that big meal very hungry. So if your holiday meal is at 5 o'clock, I would encourage you to have a snack with a carbohydrate and a protein about 3 hours at least before that meal so that we're not going into it ravenous, because studies have shown that we will eat more if we go into that meal starving. Always pause before getting seconds, either go socialize or get up and take a lap around the kitchen and give yourself a second to digest and see if you really are still hungry. And then number 5, another hack is to eat a little bit slower. But I am going to count because you did mention portioning out, so that's great.
Swaps and recipes for 200.
All right. Blank flour can replace all-purpose flour in most baking recipes and will add more protein and fiber to the recipe. Rick.
Wheat
That's
flour.
right. Whole grain flour. And this is another experiment too. I would kind of play with our older traditional recipes. If you do have something that's passed down from family or something that you enjoy every holiday season, we don't need to modify everything. But this is helpful if you're baking cookies and want to get a little bit more creative. Switching to that whole grain flour can add more protein and fiber and can actually keep you fuller a little bit longer from that fiber content. I would probably switch to about half and half at first and see how it does, and then switch to that whole grain version. And you can find a lot of whole grain flour recipes online too. Good job.
Swaps and recipes for 300.
All right. Someone needs to challenge Rick here. Low fat blank can be swapped for the whole fat version and is a good source of protein and calcium. Hint, it contains lactose. Heather.
Milk?
Yes. So any dairy product. We do recommend utilizing low-fat dairy in any recipe or any chance that you can. So that would be our low-fat yogurts, cheeses, and milks. I do know that sometimes low-fat cheese, especially in recipes, doesn't really melt down as well as our whole-fat cheese. So in that case, I would just say be mindful of your portion size. But otherwise, low-fat dairy I would utilize in that lower fat portion. Good job. All right, Heather, you get to pick our next category.
Holiday stats 100.
100. What is the most popular holiday food in Texas? Rick?
Brisket.
That's a good guess. Pecan pie. All right, Rick?
Power of portions, 200.
How many ounces are in a proper serving of protein? And this is our animal protein we're talking about. Judith?
4 ounces.
Very close. 3 ounces. So a little cheat that we can do is we can use about the palm size of a woman's hand, or about the size of a deck of cards would be a 3-ounce portion. So especially here in Texas, we usually get our big steak or brisket or chicken or fish even as, you know, the majority of our plate. But like the beginning of class when we talked about, we want half of our plate to be those vegetables. So that really only leaves about 25% or 3 ounces left for our protein, our animal proteins. And that's per meal. Okay, so not per day. Good guess.
Let's do just for fun for 300.
Okay. 20 grams of sugar can be found in this traditional holiday drink. Judith.
Eggnog.
That's right. So I wanted to put this in here just to touch on the added sugar content in popular holiday foods as well. So the general recommendation for added sugar per day is 6 teaspoons for women and 9 teaspoons for men. Okay, so on the food label, we're going to be looking at grams. So for women, that would be 24 grams, and for men, that would be 36 grams. And I can also give that information to Kelly to send out in the post-class email so that you guys have that guideline. And usually as dietitians, we kind of start when talking about added sugar with beverages because they are very sneaky. And again, we don't want to take away from those traditional holiday foods, cookies on anniversaries and birthdays, things like cakes. So minimizing how much added sugar we're getting from beverages is usually the first place that we start. Eggnog has about 20 grams. So you see that's getting very close to that 24 grams for women. But I wanted to touch on some other drinks as well. So just a 12-ounce Coca-Cola has about 39 grams. And then if we have any Starbucks fans in here, I'm sorry, but every holiday season, I have to pick on Starbucks. So we're talking about a grande size drink. So that would be about a medium. A grande caramel brulee latte has 48 grams. And a peppermint white chocolate mocha has 72. So that would be 3 days worth of added sugar for a woman. And again, these are fun, traditional treats. And I say treat because they're meant to be enjoyed in moderation, right? So some easy hacks, because I do enjoy a peppermint coffee every now and again, is to ask the barista how many pumps go into that drink and cutting that in half. So that would take the added sugar amount and cut that in half as well. And these are for the grande serving size. So you could also go for a tall and cut the serving in half, and that would cut it down by about 60%. So not to say that you can't enjoy these drinks, but kind of using little hacks to cut down the added sugar, but the taste is still awesome. And also asking for things like no whipped cream, no additional sprinkles, things like that will also help as well to modify those drinks. But eggnog, again, is traditional. It's used in moderation. So having, a serving of that at one holiday party probably won't hurt you, but it's good to know to be mindful that it does contain 20 grams of sugar.
Let's do success for 400.
400. What is the maximum allowance of alcohol consumption for cancer survivors? And I'll give you a hint there. It is different for men and women. Heather.
1 drink a day for women and 2 for men.
That's right. And we always say too, if you don't drink, don't start. This is not an encouragement to have 1 drink per day, but if you are choosing to have an alcoholic beverage, this is the maximum. And 1 drink would be considered 1 serving of beer, 1 mixed drink, or 1 2-ounce serving of liquor. So that would be considered 1 drink. And then for 2 drinks for men, the same thing. Again, I do want to preach on the added sugar because, things like eggnog, margaritas, traditional holiday drinks can be ramped up in the added sugar department as well. So just always be mindful of that. And a glass of wine counts as well.
Holiday stats 300.
How many calories are in the average holiday meal? Judith?
3,000.
Good job. So that's for the average woman would be above our calorie allowance for the day, depending on height and weight and activity level. Everyone's calories needs are a little bit different. And if you're curious about what your calorie needs are for the day, I would meet with a registered dietitian or ask your doctor for that recommendation because it is very individualized, especially in oncology. And again, this is 1 meal or 2 meals out of the year, so it won't make all the difference in the world. But the days around that meal and even the meals within that day, we want to be mindful that we're getting in a lot of good fiber, a lot of good non-starchy vegetables, just to kind of balance it out. But, we use a lot of heavy creams, fats, desserts, sugary drinks in those holiday meals as well. So it adds up quick. Good job.
Just for fun, 500.
What is something that you have learned today? Rick?
Calorie count,
Yeah, in the holiday meal?
all of it.
Yeah, did that surprise you, the 3,000?
A little, yes.
Yeah. All right, that's 500 to Rick. That was kind of a freebie.
So you're, set yourself up for success for 300.
True or false? It is good to fast the day of a large holiday dinner. Rick?
False.
False. And like we talked about before, if we know we're going to have a large dinner, we don't want to fast the day of. We always want to have a good carbohydrate and a protein and a fiber with a meal to make sure that we're going into that meal not ravenous, because it is shown that we're more likely to binge if we go in too hungry to a meal.
Just for fun for 200.
200. What is the amino acid in turkey that makes you sleepy? This is kind of a hard one, and it's one that you can take to your next holiday meal as a trivia question. Anyone have any guesses? Mary Lynn?
Tryptolene or something like that. Begins with a T.
Tryptophan. I'll give it to you. That's really close.
Okay.
And studies have kind of shown that since our holiday meals are so dense and high calorie and we're not doing much physical activity on those days, that's likely why we feel so sleepy and take a big nap after our holiday meal. But tryptophan is the amino acid that can also cause fatigue. But good job.
Just for fun, 400.
400. 51 million items of this food are sold each Thanksgiving season. Heather?
Turkey.
That's right. No shock there.
Just for fun, 100.
Christmas trees are grown for blank years before they are sold on average. Judith?
10 years.
Close. 15. Another fun fact that you can take to your families as a trivia game, but I did not know that. I guessed 1 year. So what do I know about Christmas tree farms? Not much. I have a fake tree myself. So
Success for 500.
All right. Pairing a blank with a blank will help keep you full when combined together. And I have been a little sneaky. I've given you some hints. I think, Heather, I saw you first.
Protein and fiber.
Close. What kind of fiber?
I don't know.
A protein with a carbohydrate. So any starch. So pairing a protein such as an animal protein like chicken, beef, fish, with a carbohydrate, that could be a bread, pasta, beans. Beans is actually kind of a bonus because it is a protein and a carbohydrate combined. So we never want to eat one of those alone, because when they're digested together, it will keep us fuller longer and can also help with things like weight management, blood sugar regulation, all that good stuff.
Success 100.
Name one way to stay mindful during a meal. Judith?
Put your fork down.
The good one. Sorry, this one's a little busy. And these are just some of my favorite ways, but there are, of course, other ways too if you find something that works for you and your family. Probably the biggest one I always tell you to start with is turning off that TV and eating at the table. I know with football season and, holiday parades and things like that, that can be very hard to do. But from our average day to day, that is a big one. So that way we're actually paying attention to things like our fullness, our hunger cues, and we're actually enjoying the meal. Number 2 is chewing your food slowly. And that goes to number 5. What Judith said is putting your fork down in between bites. Cutting your food as you go instead of doing it all at once, putting the fork down, chewing, swallowing. And that kind of goes along with number 3 also. While you're chewing, ask yourself, am I really still enjoying this taste? Am I still satisfied by this? Do I need to move on to something else? Or am I good with stopping here? Putting it in the refrigerator and coming back to reheat it, there's no fault in that. So if you do that and 5 minutes later you realize you are still hungry, we can always go back to it. So it is better to kind of listen to those cues and think through that rather than overeat and feel stuffed. So that's why also turning off the TV and all of those things kind of play into those as well. And again, I think I touched on this a little bit. Pay attention to your fullness cues and pause before getting seconds. So if I find myself eating really quickly, I'm talking to family or the football game's on, and I find myself picking up my plate to go back in line, I try to set it down, take a lap, play with the dog, do something to distract myself for a minute, and then coming back to see if I really am still hungry. Most of the time I am, but it's also good to kind of establish a relationship with those hunger cues and really learn your body.
Swaps recipes for 400.
All right. You can reduce this ingredient in most baking recipes by 25% without noticing a difference in taste. Mary Lynn?
Sugar?
Yes. So again, thinking about that added sugar, 24 grams for women, 36 grams for men. A really easy way to reduce it is by reducing it. So I do like to add in that recipes and especially pre-made things from the grocery store, they really try to market to us by being, quote, more natural, by using things like sugar in the raw or even brown sugar, honey. I'll be the bad dietitian and let you know that all of these are digested and stored the same. So all of these are broken down to glucose, which is used in a good way by our cells and used for energy, but also it doesn't make a difference between raw sugar and regular sugar. Things like honey do have a little bit more nutrition benefit to them, however, but the sugar in those foods will all be digested and stored the same.
Let's keep going. Swaps and recipes for 500.
Yeah, you're on fire with this one. Shredded or pureed apples, carrots, bananas, and pumpkin can be used to boost nutrients and reduce which ingredient? So which ingredient do we get to swap out for? Judith?
The sugar.
Good guess, but is the fat. So I have done this. I've experimented with brownies, adding in applesauce or even black beans or avocado. I know that's really dietitian of me, but I encourage you to have fun with it. Pumpkin is a really easy one to start with because it is holiday-ish and does have a really good flavor to it. And it also has a lot of good vitamin A and soluble fiber. So if we're making things like pumpkin brownies, we could take out some of that fat from the butter and add in that pumpkin. It'll still get that creamy, good flavor, but add in more nutrition. I have gotten a lot of good feedback from patients with bananas as well. If you have any GI history with diarrhea or cramping or things like that, bananas are a really good source of soluble fiber as well, and will cut down on the calories in your recipes. But if you guys try any of these, report back to me and let me know so I can share with my patients too what works for you. I get a little nervous using things like carrots besides carrot cake, but if it works for you, let me know. Besides carrots, I do put them in the air fryer and make carrot French fries, which they taste exactly like sweet potato fries and add more vitamin A. So there's a little hack for you.
Holiday stats for 400.
All right. 29% of Americans do not enjoy this traditional Thanksgiving food. Judith.
Turkey.
Good guess. Cranberry sauce. It gets a very bad rep in my house, at least. Using things like whole cranberries or trying to make your own will add more nutrition benefit from the vitamin C and fiber, but our traditional canned cranberry doesn't really add much benefit. I wanted to say that it added more vitamin C, but I did some research and it's only 1% of our daily value. So if you really enjoy it, it's one of those things that's eaten probably once or twice a year. Go for it. It adds good color to our plate, good tartness also. If you have any taste changes from treatment, those tart foods like oranges and cranberries can really help bring that tart taste forward if you're experiencing any like bitter or salty taste. But other than that, it's warranted. I'm not a big fan. I'm sorry if you are.
Holiday stats for 500.
All right. The average weight Americans gain during the holiday season, and studies have actually lowered it, so it's not as high as we think. Heather.
3 pounds.
It is only 0.8 pounds. So that's encouraging. Also going back to that 3,000 calories per holiday meal. I think we're also getting a little bit better about knowing the benefits of physical activity and not waiting until the new year to start those resolutions, kind of weaving that into now, getting our families up and walking with us, things like turkey trots. All of those things I think are being better incorporated into family traditions. But we used to think it was around 7 pounds and now it's dropped down to 0.8. So maybe we need to reevaluate and kind of get the average between the two, but that's what studies are showing right now.
Portions 400.
Right. Blank percent of your plate is allocated to a starch. Rick?
50%.
25.
Oh, 25.
So 50% is our non-starchy vegetables. So again, any vegetable we can think of besides peas, potatoes, and corn, those are starches. So those will move over to the 25%. So if we're doing something like a baked potato, peas, corn on the cob, we'll put that towards our starch. Still need to add another veggie. Usually in Texas, Oklahoma, where I'm from, we kind of think of corn and peas as a vegetable, but we're going to move those over to the starch. And then the other 25% will be the protein.
Power of portions.
A proper serving size of fat can be measured as, and a hint, you can measure it using your fingers as a visual. Judith?
I was going to say 2 fingers, but I'm thinking 1.
I'll give it to you. It's the tip of a thumb.
Wow. Well,
So
that's what I was visualizing when I meant finger.
yeah.
I was looking at my finger.
So it's about 1 ounce. So the tip of a female thumb, you can see it's pretty small, and that would be for like our butters and oils. Okay, so again, utilizing those swaps, adding things like pumpkin, applesauce, that will really cut down that serving size, or about 1 ounce. So if you're measuring in ounces too, that's where you would find that. And I do like to touch on too, there's a difference between different kinds of fats. So things like avocado, nuts and seeds, those serving sizes will be a little bit different. But if we're just using oil and butter in our recipes, we want it to be about the tip of a thumb. Other fun little portion sizes using your hands. Again, the palm of a woman's hand or a deck of cards would be our protein portion. So when we're out to eat and order a steak or a chicken breast, we kind of want to modify it, take the other half maybe to go or split with someone else to kind of get down to that 3 ounce portion. about the size of our fist would be our starches. So rice, pastas, things like that would be about the size of a woman's fist, which again, if we go to Olive Garden or out to eat, it's usually the entire plate. So visually, how can we modify that to make it a 25%, and then using a side salad or broccoli or something else, chicken breast, to kind of balance out that starch. So we can't always bring our measuring cups with us. I would discourage you to do that, but using those visual tools to kind of assess how we can modify our plates will be very helpful, especially for weight management. And that is our game, you guys. Good job. I know some of those were really hard and kind of random, but I wanted to use those as kind of education tools so we could all learn together. And I wanted to kind of open up the end of class for any kind of discussion. You guys can utilize the chat.
Get in the chat.
Or come off mute, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Send the measurement size in the follow-up email.
Oh, perfect. There is a really cool graphic that uses the whole hand. I believe it's from the AICR. I will send that to Kelly. And then I will also send the food safety guidelines as well. The American Academy for Nutrition and Dietetics also has a really good fact sheet for those swaps that we talked about. So using things like pumpkin and zucchini and carrots in recipes. So I'll send that over as well. So that way you're not having to Google everywhere to find it.
Thank you all so much for participating with us, not only today, but in this entire 3-part series. It's been a great way to wrap up our year. I can't believe it. And then just a reminder, we are going to send that follow-up email, so it'll have the resources shared from Morgan, but not just Morgan, but our previous presentation as well, with Dr. Zuniga and Ariel Schultz. And so all of those will be provided in a final wrap-up for this. And just don't forget to stay connected with us. Like us on Facebook, go to our website. We have tons of resources for you guys there, including all past webinars. But yeah, happy holidays, everyone. We hope you have a great rest of your year. Thank y'all for being here today.
Thank you guys so much. Have a safe and fun holiday.